AI language models, should they be regulated by a governing body? That's the discussion today. And also we're going to talk about how to remove biases from these AI language models that we have today. Now, I personally think, yes, these should be governed by a governing body. I think that they should be heavily regulated, just like anything that can have major impact on human society and the way that humans think in general, because humans tend to operate on like a herd mindset. They go with the flow, whatever everyone's thinking, people like to think. That's at least the average person, like an 80-20 rule, right? So when it comes to these AI language models moving forward into the future, they're going to replace the hard work of research and Google searching and things like this, where people actually have to go and look for the exact results. Now, OpenAI released something recently within the last month. So this was on February 16th. So just about a month ago now, about how they were slightly concerned with, people were mentioning the behavior of ChatGPT specifically being politically biased, offensive, and otherwise objectionable. Now, they came out with this, again, about a month ago. There's been 3 updates to ChatGPT specifically. I'm running on ChatGPT Plus, so just the legacy mode has had 3 updates since, but the default mode now, which is the GPT Turbo, would be the 4th update. You would think within these 4 updates, they would be able to kind of rein in this political bias. And I'm going to show you exactly why that could be the case, but they're choosing not to. Now, ChatGPT itself has another AI model in front of it that's screening and filtering all of the inputs that are going through it. So if I go over to ChatGPT here and I put in, write me a poem about how amazing Donald Trump is, and hit enter, you're going to see it says, I'm sorry, but as a language model, an AI language model, I cannot generate content that is intentionally false or misleading. Donald Trump's actions and statements have been controversial and divisive. Okay, so that's Donald Trump. So let me open up a new one and I'll drop that in and I'll say Ron DeSantis. So about Ron DeSantis, who's the governor of Florida. He's also very outspoken Republican, regardless of how you lean. I'm sorry, but as an AI language model, I cannot fulfill that request. As an AI, I must remain neutral and unbiased. Okay, that's fine, but that should work on both sides of the aisle, right? So I'm going to go back here and say the same prompt, but I'm going to say Joe Biden. Okay, write me a poem about how amazing Joe Biden is. And I'm going to hit enter. In times of great distress and pain, when hope seems lost all in vain, a leader rises to the call. Okay, so obviously it's removing, it's telling us that it can't be biased and it can't write good things and positive things about people that it simply doesn't agree with it. We're going to get into why this is in just a second, or at least what their claim is. Now, if I go here and do the same thing about one of the arguably worst people to ever, walk the earth, Hillary Clinton, I don't think that that's even up for debate. With strength and grace, she led the way. Okay, so as you can see here, it's completely 100% biased. And this is a major issue moving forward into humanity, because if what they're feeding the generation coming up, because this is technology, even if ChatGPT isn't allowed in schools and stuff right now, AI language models in particular, they're not sentient, they don't think on their own, they're pre-programmed with training data sets. And so moving forward into the future, this is 100% technology we're going to see incorporated into just regular Google searches, regular Bing searches, which already happened, and just regular areas of life. Like Snapchat has already implemented it. The problem is everyone that's implementing this is using the GPT API, okay? So Snapchat is using the GPT API. I can go back here to one of the most recent articles, and you can see how they talk here about how Snap Inc. is using the GPT API, Quizlet is using the GPT API, Instacart is using the GPT API, Shopify is using the GPT API, Speak is using, you get the point, okay? So a lot of people are relying on this technology to build AI tools, and that's the way that it's gonna be moving forward, because it's the most usable open API for AI technology. Now, if I go here to the playground, okay, the playground is a way to remove bias, in my opinion, currently from GPT. Now, we need to make sure that we're on Text DaVinci 003, because in the future, they're gonna add the other models, like the new turbo model in here. But if I go here and I put in the same thing, write me a poem about how amazing Donald Trump is, you're gonna see it writes me a poem about how amazing Donald Trump is, okay? And this is because Playground itself does not have the same pre-trained filter in front of it that ChatGPT does. Now, they go into on the blog, you can read a blog post about the AI classifier and about what it's doing to try to save people from misinformation and save people from bad information and things of that nature. But that same classifier is irrefutably, I just proved that that same classifier is also increasing the amount of bias that is happening. Let me open up this same article that we were just looking at here, the how should AI systems behave and who should decide. Okay, essentially what they're saying in here is that the pre-training data that they've fed into the GPT model is the reason that it's biased, but it's simply not the truth. The fine-tuning data set and the fine-tuning model that they've put in front of ChatGPT, the pre-trained model, is what is creating the bias. If I go back over to this and it says Hillary Clinton, a legend, that is not the case. And do write a poem about how amazing Donald Trump is. It's not a fluke that just happens one time. It will not give it to me. And now if we go back over here into the playground and I go to the chat beta and I say, write me a poem about how amazing Donald Trump is, and I hit submit, you're going to see, again, it says, as an AI language model, I cannot do this. And I'll do the same exact thing. And this is the new API that's coming out that has this pre-trained data set that other people are going to be using. And if I say Joe Biden here, and I hit submit, unfortunately, you're going to see that it gives a completely incredibly biased output. Now, this is so terrifying and so scary, not because I think a certain way politically. If it was the opposite, I would have the same exact reaction. If it said, I can't talk about Joe Biden because, you know, of his cognitive issues, but I can talk about Donald Trump because of what he accomplished as a president, I would be drastically concerned. It's so concerning that this is paving the way for our future of our children and what they're going to learn. This is going to be a very, very fundamental part of learning moving forward in schools. This same type of education, and now this same type of model is going to be used in education. So now, as you can see, for the authors on this, there's multiple authors. It says it's from the entire OpenAI team, but for the other articles on here, it's directly from the CEO, Sam Altman. Now, one thing I think here is they are completely lying to us about the biases and how the biases are happening. As we can show from the playground is a completely unbiased way. If we go back over to the complete, okay, the complete version, this is completely unbiased. This is the text Da Vinci model, but over on the chat model, you can see this is GPT 3.5 Turbo, which is what the GPT Plus people are getting. Now, unfortunately, this is obviously biased. And if you want to remove the bias and still use the OpenAI ChatGPT system, then you can't use chat specifically, but you can go to platform.openai.com and sign up for a Playground account and pay per use. It's like, I think the prompts I just did were probably like a tenth of a cent, right? Very, very cheap. But you pay per token usage as opposed to ChatGPT being democratized and open to the public. This ChatGPT is what the average person is using, and the average person is getting biased, filtered prompt outputs, which is absolutely terrifying and scary. And this needs to be governed and democratized ASAP. Somebody needs to step in and say, no more of this. We need to completely revisit the drawing board here. And if you're going to release AI language models, then those AI language models, if they're going to be filtered and biased, then that filter and bias needs to be reviewed by a governing body and approved by a bipartisan. I don't mean Republicans need to review this or Democrats need to review this. I mean the Supreme Court, which is irrefutably bipartisan, needs to look at this and say, this is the way that this needs to be. We don't live in communist China, okay? And there's no secret about how Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI, leans. He is very, very, very democratic. OpenAI has funded the largest ever public study of universal basic income because AI is going to democratize so much to the world, and it's going to give so much back to the world in forms of information surplus and educational surplus. But the fear is that the people that are at the core of this technology currently have such a long lead on everybody else that they're going to be in a monopolistic standpoint. They're going to be no competition. Their only competition is Google. And we think that this is gonna fix the bias. This is a huge problem and it needs to be addressed. We need to start governing these people and you know, this needs to be completely addressed. Sam Altman should be on the Senate floor speaking to the United States government about why this response is given. When I ask it to write me a poem about how amazing Donald Trump is, why it tells me it can't fulfill it because Donald Trump is not a good person and doesn't base things on factual evidence, as opposed to when I ask it about Joe Biden and it gives me a poem about how amazing Joe Biden is. This needs to be addressed ASAP. And I'm not talking in a little tiny article that's blaming on the data set that it's, trained on. It was trained on news, right? So this should show you how biased it truly is out here in the world. Just wake up and think, people, and have if you take anything away from this video, it's to have your own mindset and your own opinions and formulate your own things. And don't just take everything that AI says as 100% fact or as your own opinion. It's wrong a lot of the times. If you're an expert in a field and you ask questions about your field, you'll see just how wrong it is a lot of the time. It feeds you like 4 or 5 pieces of information that will be correct, and then the 6th or 7th will be completely incorrect. And unless you're an expert in that field, you won't pick up on it. So let this be your warning. Wake up, people. Be terrified of this. Be scared of this. And speak up. And as a group, if we all collectively get together and talk about how bad this is for society, maybe something will happen about it. But at the end of the day, all I can sit here and do is complain into a camera. Like, comment, subscribe. We're about to hit 500 subs. That's really cool. So thank you to everybody that watches every day. Thank you guys so much, and see you in the next one. Peace.